Growing up in Jamaica, my dad used to bring me to Carnival every April. It was an elaborate and rambunctious display of the bold medley of Caribbean culture. We would set up lawn chairs on the side of the road and have some beef patties and D&G cola champagne while watching the masqueraders dance by in their bands of ornate costumes and feathers and floats. For many, it's a festive time to meet others, to laugh, dance, and play while being beautifully half naked in the city streets. The all-island music, the gyrating hips, the beat of the drums, the glistening bodies, all imbued with the rebellious vibrance that is Carnival. Go the Distance is a series that features people who have discovered how to turn their pain into power and are now impacting our world in very positive ways. I'm your host, Cherrie Garden. Now, you might have seen this guy jamming in a Caribbean carnival near you, but not too many people know his struggle, the crushing weight that bared down on his life for so many years. Today, we uncover how J'ouvert Mike turned his trauma into an outpouring of philanthropy. Who is Mike Neville, aka J'ouvert Mike?
Those are two very different things. So who I am right now, I own a residential real estate team, a firm here in Atlanta. It's where I've been based in terms of this business for the last 10 years. Prior to that, I had been in education, been a teacher. And yeah, I'm all over the place. Also clearly J'ouvert Mike, my passion in the Caribbean. I'm at every carnival I can get to, anything I can fit in my schedule, anything with soca, I want to be there, I want to support it. Whether I'm on stage, lifting and whining, or last couple years I've been behind the camera and doing interviews and working stills and doing some of the media, but it really doesn't matter. In whatever capacity I can shed light and shed the story and share the culture is what I want to do.
So you're very well known in Atlanta, especially for your affinity for the Caribbean culture. Are you from the Caribbean? Where were you born?
I was born here in the States.
Okay.
And I've always shared that with people when they take the time to actually ask me, and we're not in the middle of a fete, because in the middle of the fete you'll see a flag and I'm like, yes, that's Anguilla, that's that's where my heart is. But I was born here in the States, born in Hartford, Connecticut, and then my mom moved to the Caribbean, moved to Anguilla, and I always say my first of everything and learning and development happened in Anguilla. I worked at Cap Choluca, which is on the west end of Anguilla, You know, got godchildren there, friends there, still very much connected. And so, yeah, I will always say I'm an American who has blessed to have an amazing life impacted by having lived for an extended period of time in the Caribbean. I was blessed and lucky to go to Cornell. So yeah, I think that's the weirdest part for people is understanding that the guy that they assume on stage is just some wild party animal, like, oh, he's just into big girls or just he's a party man. That's all he cares about. I know I'm an Ivy League educated, successful business owner who works with children in different philanthropic organizations. But yeah, I work hard, I give a lot, and I play hard. And I don't think most people are used to seeing that. When my parents split, my mom did everything she could to keep food on the table and clothes on our back. And we needed for nothing, wanted for plenty, but she did everything we needed to. So no, it wasn't about like international jet setting and things like that, but having friends from all over the world, you can begin to understand it. Mom had worked really hard to raise my sister and I. She had never really taken vacation. And I think that constant workload and stress got to her, and she had a mental breakdown. I remember her collapsing in the kitchen and being rushed to the hospital.
You called the ambulance? You saw it?
I did see it. I don't remember who called.
Okay.
But I definitely remember it pretty vividly. And she was in the hospital, and the doctors basically just said, "This is stress. You need to shut down."
So in essence, it's as if she was serving all these people and listening to all these other people's stories and not releasing the stress herself.
I think she was panicked. The fear that I remember was that she promised that we would never go back to the projects. She never wanted to move back to the projects. She wanted better for my sister and I. And I think that ultimately, yeah, she was serving hundreds of people and ultimately trying to serve us.
What kind of living situation did your mother have? Like, which projects did she grow up in?
She grew up in the Southie projects, south side of Boston. It was way back, but I mean, for her, it was about wanting to stay away from gangs, stay away from violence. I remember the stories about, she was like, the hooker who lived upstairs, she was really nice during the day. She'd give us popcorn, but then we had to stay away at night. And like, of course, that's not what you want for your kids. You don't want to go back in that situation. So no, that drove her to push for us and to have better. But I don't know, like, we've always had friends from all over the globe and all different price points of like where they may live or what they may earn. And none of that stuff mattered. It was about how they treated us and how we treated them.
Bahamas Carnival 2018, Elba Boy, Ouvert, Bahamas Masqueraders, let go! Yeah, boy!
How did Juve Mike come about? Was that something that started during your summer vacation? Was it summer vacations like Christmas or?
So summer holiday and Christmas holiday, I was down there. But no, Juve Mike did. The name Juve Mike did not come from Anguilla days. Like, I was called plenty of things. White Mike, Casper, different things, different times. Michael, boy, get over here. Though later on, I started getting called so many different things. And people would see me traveling around, they'd be like, "Oh, you're that Carnival Mike." So there was Carnival Mike, White Mike, all these things. And I'm like, yo, take it easy. Like, stop with the whole gotta be the white guy. I was like, man. And candidly, it was when I started getting tagged in things and it started to impact my business here in the United States. I was like, yo, time out. like, stop putting my government name on these things because this is impacting my business and my earnings. So they were like, well, you've got like 10 names. I'm like, yo, go with the one the Americans will not find quickly. So go with Juve, Mike. Just keep it. You call me that. Stick with it. You already know I love Juve. They're like, yeah, you wild as hell. You might as well just be in a Juve all day long, all night. Which is true. Paint, powder, and mud. I'm cool with. We don't. This is. Very few people will ever see me at a carnival with a shirt on, but that's just my thing.
So was that your first time experiencing carnival when you went to Anguilla?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the day, you know, way before there was ever a drink truck or whatever, man, it was put your pirate rum, pistols, long skinny bottles. You used to put them in your pockets, grab your Coke from your, you know, cooler man, get your $1 Coke, take your pistol, you're good. You pass out, usually I would pass out on the yard out in front of the airport because we made this circle around the valley. And it was good. Good time.
How old were you at that time when you first went to carnival?
Shoot. I was drinking in college. That was only in university. It wasn't before that, ever.
Look, man, in the Caribbean, it's different.
No. You're putting me on blast on video right now. No.
So, there are people that hear us saying the word carnival, and you and I, being familiar with the Caribbean and me being from Jamaica, we're familiar with it, but what is carnival in your estimation? Let's tell them.
The greatest thing on earth. For those who truly aren't familiar in terms of the connection, it's historical aspects were that it was a pre-Lenten bacchanal. And I mean, if you look at a lot of the wording that comes through, it comes from that heritage of pre-Lenten. We're gonna have a great time. We're gonna drink. We're gonna dance. We're gonna all types of revelry. So I guess for Americans, the easiest comparison is what Mardi Gras is, except it's not just Mardi Gras. To me, when I think of Mardi Gras, I think of some people flashing and getting some beads and drinking some alcohol with some floats. Nah, for us, we're talking about pretty mass, the pageantry, the heritage there, understanding what Juve is and the mockery of the slave system and the slave masters, or jab, you know, in Grenada in particular. But looking at all those aspects and everyone fetting and all of the music, I try to explain to Americans, they're like, oh, they think soca is dancehall. I'm like, no, not anywhere near. And they're like, oh, it's always cussing and all this. I was like, no. I'm like, think of soca like Christmas music. It's the happy music. It's the positive music. And I went, well, sort of positive. Like, we're gonna talk about drinking. We're gonna talk about sexy positive. But you're not gonna talk about killing anyone. There's no none of that. There's no argumentative. Because I'm like, when they try and compare it to American music and like it's hip hop, I'm like, nah, not exactly. Like, but no, I just think of it as the holiday music because it's not parang, but I mean it's positive and we're happy and we're celebrating that.
And then Juve in particular.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
The break of dawn, the fact that we're partying from the middle of the night, and the history of truly being painted and covered so that the slave masters could not identify the slaves having their own fete, and then making a mockery of the slave masters and their traditions. So that continues now into modern form of not just mud and oil, but also paint and powder. But it's early from before sunup till after sunrise, filling the streets and everyone having a good time. To me, out of everything with Carnival, the thing with Juve is about letting loose. And that spiritual, just, it doesn't matter where you're from. Socioeconomics mean nothing at Juve and Carnival. You're there to celebrate being alive. And have at it. We could wind up on anything, everyone. You good.
Man, I just love seeing that passion in light.
I've only been to one Juve, and I didn't even get splashed with much paint. Here in Atlanta, though, we do a unique style of Juve called Colorgasm, where it's like a joyous mosh pit of slippery multicolor whining and bacchanal.
Oh,
So when did how did you develop this affinity for weightlifting?
I honestly have done that for God knows how long. Like there were women in Anguilla who I was picking up as a teenager. But where I think it happened more so as an adult, that people acknowledge it or it became a thing. I started doing this thing, and the same girl kept coming back to me each year, year after year in Miami. And she was talking about, like, I was the first man who could ever physically pick her up. And I was like, you're just around the wrong man, don't worry about it. No big thing. But next year, she's like, you remember me? Look how much I lost. And it was like, whoa, she really, like, remembered me. And, like, it made an impression on her in a positive way. And lifted her up and went, oh, you lost so much. Of course, you made it so easy on me, man. It's so easy. And same thing next year. And seeing this transformation and knowing that it impacted someone, I was like, really? I was just dancing and having fun. And you start noticing that other women are just like, yo, why can't everybody have a good time? And you can be of all shapes and sizes at Carnival and have a great time. But then as it continued to morph and it became something where people wanted me on stage doing this and that, I also had to kind of pull back and be like, whoa. I don't want this to be misconstrued as like putting bigger girls on display and using them as a quote unquote prop, or using it as a situation where someone is being utilized in a way that they don't want to be utilized.
Objectified.
Yeah, definitely don't want to be objectified in that regard. So it was like, all right, let me pull back from that. So over the last few years, you might notice that you don't see me on that. I also wasn't really a big fan of these promoters like using me for promos, and then they're like, I'm like, you didn't even let me in free, or you didn't even comp me, or give me the there should be payment for performance on stage. Anyways, but
so they started objectifying you.
Yeah, definitely some exploitation going on for sure. But I didn't want anyone to feel that way because it all started organically, and it wasn't about business. And so I kind of put that to the back burner now. But yeah, if I'm just in a fit and having a good time, especially if there are no cameras around, man, anything goes. So yeah, people still get lift up, but it's just when it's organic.
And by the way, a fete is a party.
Sorry.
For those of us who don't know,
Yes.
speaking different languages right now.
Yeah, my bad. My apologies. Depression is a tough thing to fully explain, other than it's like this heavy weight on your shoulders pushing you down. I mean, we're not talking small man, we're talking thousands of pounds, and it's pushing down on you. It's suffocating. No matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you push, this elephant is not getting off. You're being crushed by the weight of it. You can try and catch a glimpse and a breath of air, and those are those small moments of joy. But that heaviness and that weight never disappears. And that's unfortunately what some people do succumb to. And they just want that weight and heaviness to disappear. Yeah, it's definitely not something like overnight, like, oh, I have this. I can remember things from college, questioning it, being in really low places, different times. But I think the one that really stands out to me is after I left teaching. While I know that I hadn't been coping with it well then, and had too much frustration, too much anger, I had heart palpitations, got rushed to the hospital. When I was in quote unquote a less stressful position, handling millions of dollars of negotiations in real estate, I got to this point where I had hit a goal, and I was making more money than I ever could have imagined in my life. And I remember driving from one appointment to the other, and I was just broke down in tears. I was like, are you kidding me? You have everything you need. You are making a ton of money. You can do whatever you want, and you're sitting here in tears.
So the point of hitting that goal is what led you to realize that you still weren't fully feeling happy, accomplished, satisfied?
Yeah.
And then that kind of swung or spiraled into wondering why am I not feeling?
Yeah, because I mean, everyone's in this rat race to make this much, to have this thing. I was never into the materialistic, like, oh, I need this car or this monster house. But I always looked at money as, money's only good for the good you can do with it, right? And I entered this field truly to become a millionaire, not because I want to be a millionaire, but I know financially from there I can retire and that I can do the philanthropic things that fill my heart. I was watching other people pass and take their own lives, and I was like, I'm not going to be that. And I got too much responsibility for my family and too many blessings to give to others. But how do I deal with it? It's still a work in progress, man. Thankfully, no one, and I've never had to watch anyone in person commit suicide, but I've seen the after effects, and it's scary. And you see different folks that I know that have survived suicide attempts and how they realize instantaneously that they didn't want to die. They just wanted the pain to end. And a lot of them are very thankful that they were not successful. But it doesn't mean that they didn't go through years more of struggles and more challenges. There's a lot of challenges. I'm not gonna say like I'm yay 100%, but like, I worked through it. I worked through one, being conscious of, now I am truly on a medication to battle clinical depression. I'm cognizant of the environment that I put myself in, who I'm surrounding myself with. I do look for positive things on a consistent basis. I try to share that joy with others because someone may be getting impacted by that. And sometimes I'm sharing it because I just need it reaffirmed personally. Still days that are really hard to just get out of bed, and I have to be cognizant of that and what's going on and what's impacting my environment. But you look at what's impacting your environment, but I also start thinking about the scaffold of life, and where do you go from your basic needs being met to having relationships to now, to me, the top of that pyramid is about love in a way of giving back and paying it forward.
That like the self-actualization type of triangle? Oh,
yeah. So what brings me joy now is seeing others succeed and knowing that I've improved their life in some way, shape, or form. And we can do that so many different ways, And I just feel like I've been blessed with so many privileges that I need to acknowledge those, dismantle certain, stereotypes and inequalities in the United States. But it's not just the United States, it's worldwide. So how do we face those things? How do we pay it forward? And also being in nature. I look at those two things as feeding what my internal challenges are by increasing my joy and working through it.
What led you to know that you make the decision that you were not going to try to commit suicide or harm yourself?
Sure.
In the midst of all of that.
Sure. I'll say in the midst of battling depression, actually the clinical psychologist said, I'm shocked. The level and magnitude of what you've been dealing with, most people have attempted suicide. And attempting suicide never was an option to me, I think, honestly, because of my family and knowing all of the privileges that I've been blessed to have, that I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to do something bigger, to help others. And this is, quote unquote, my cross to bear in terms of we all deal with something. I just happen to deal with this. And as bad as it can be, that wasn't an option to me.
So you knew your purpose in the midst of that?
I knew that there had to be a greater purpose, and that there's too many things inside of me that lead me to believe that I can do something to make a difference in others' lives. So knowing that, and I could never imagine the look on my mom's face, my sister's face, if someone had to tell them that I had taken my own life. I couldn't do it.
What was it that led you to start seeing the psychiatrist? Because I know you said you didn't want to examine that. And how did you go about getting the help?
I called a couple of dear friends and asked them who they might know. And they said they asked friends who has a psychologist and who could deal with that. For those who don't have medical insurance or don't have the financial capabilities, I'd say first go online. Look, there are free resources. There are 1-800 numbers you can call. There are volunteers that are willing to listen. There are people who are there, who do care. I'd say starting there, looking at those types of support groups, and then look what type of free services are out there that can help you address this, because it's clearly a need.
Can't tell me this is an absolutely amazing way to spend Easter Sunday. Sunset, on the beach, coaching, with the river pouring down. Absolutely blessed.
With all of that being said, how has that experience, or will all of these cumulative experiences, influenced what you're doing today? I mean, on social media, you have started to talk more about philanthropy, activism, and that's really what caught my eye to say, oh man, there's another side of Juve Mike. What's really going on now?
I'm looking at the next chapter. It had to be a better way to serve people, serve the world, and I think something that really nagged at me was like, okay, I know I got friends going to Vegas and they're gonna make money and they're gonna do great things. They'll do stuff on Wall Street, but I felt like I would have been selling my soul. It doesn't mean they don't, but that's how it was resonating with me. And so I wanted to find a way to give back. And I heard about Teach for America, and a light bulb just kind of went off about like, whoa, I have a chance to make a difference in the lives of children. And I could be that positive male role model for children. I think something that, one, I definitely wish I had had on a more consistent basis as a child, and that you see so often in society, that there's a lot of kids who would love to have both a male and a female positive role model in their lives. I've been in the distance looking at it for a while because I knew that this career serves its purpose, but it wasn't going to fill my joy. It doesn't go with my passion. And I've been looking at ways to combine all of my loves. And so I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love to travel. I love to support the Caribbean. But I like to explore the world. So I'm starting to have conversations with different people in the soca world, in the tourism world, within the Caribbean, so that we can begin to look at adventure and advocacy. So, last year I was in Haiti, working at a malnutrition center. There's an orphanage in Grenada. There's so many different people doing wonderful things, advocating for the betterment of mankind and honestly for the world. And I want to bring light to that, and I want to be a part of that solution. So highlighting them, spending time with them, volunteering with them, and then also getting my fix on some adrenaline. So there'll be more carnivals, but there'll also be different type of exploration. I definitely see some trips to Africa to learn about, so many beautiful aspects of the history, the culture, and the natural beauty. But also, how can we connect, and what can we do to give back? So adventure and advocacy is something that you'll be seeing from me going forward in a big way. We'll be looking at it in non-profit. We'll be looking at it as starting a movement.
In the process of producing this episode, Emmy Award-winning TV personality and chef Anthony Bourdain committed suicide after a deep struggle with depression. His death moved us because his interview style had heavily influenced Go the Distance. Depression is anchored in hopelessness. Finding hope is how you conquer it. There are many ways to generate hope. Reaching out to something greater than you is key. No matter the depths of pain you're experiencing, there is always the good and the bad existing together. So pinpoint something to be grateful for. If you know a loved one or a friend who has mentioned their depression, take their cries seriously. Let them know that you're there. Use the pain that you're feeling in order to create a mission or a purpose that'll help others who are battling the same thing. Your life will inspire others. The answers are in your story.
The harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. Your situation is not what it seems. As long as you live there, your future is shaping, and the way you are headed. Got no time for problems. Hold the weight on your shoulder. Put your troubles behind you. If you fall down, just get up and get your head out the dirt.